What's up, everybody? And I have a very exciting announcement. As you guys know, today is the first day of August, and for those who really know my channel, for the first 7 days of August, I have something called Fall and Winter Week, which is basically where I have videos related to fall and winter every single afternoon, whether it's a fall forecast, a preliminary winter forecast, who can get the snowiest fall, and blah blah blah. You guys get the point. So for those who love to know about fall and winter early on, this is going to be your favorite week possibly of the year when it comes to YouTube channels, because today will be my preliminary fall forecast. So the first 3 days of this week will be related to fall. Then the second 3 days will be, or second round of 3 days will be related to winter. And then the last day I will find out what I will do, whether maybe to live stream. We will see, because August 7th is actually Saturday. So that means I can do whatever I want, basically. But before we get into the video, I would recommend you guys subscribe to the channel, especially if you love tropical related updates and as well overall winter updates, because I'm going to be doing a lot of those both combined type of topics throughout the next few months. As well, be sure to smash that like button so I know you guys like this favorite traditional week I do, and as well be sure to the bell icon so you can get notified as soon as I make a video. But without further ado, let's get into the update. So first thing we want to look at is the Niña 3.4 index latest value, and we are continuing to get very low when it comes to the actual values, because now we're basically getting very close to a negative 0.3, and the minimal number you need is negative 0.5 to have La Niña type status, but obviously you have to keep that status and stay under negative 0.5 for a few weeks to get an actual official La Niña. Obviously, at the moment, we are at La Niña watch, so it's definitely something to keep a close eye on, that we can get an official La Niña by the next 2 months or so. So we're really dropping ever since that small increase. So waters across the equatorial Pacific are starting to become a lot cooler and more widespread. However, we're still seeing some pretty warm waters off the northwest South American coast, which is the reason why these values are kind of possibly going to go back to staying pretty similar to where they are now, not dropping furthermore. But obviously, we're going to continue to watch whether we can get to La Niña status possibly by early October, if not even late September, because obviously that will take into consideration how it'll affect the much of the fall for the United States, because obviously fall goes all the way up till late December 21st, I believe so. So you guys probably think of fall is only October, September, and November, but again, it also goes into late December, so we're also talking about almost, obviously I consider December winter really, but obviously meteorologically and calendar wise it is still part of fall. So obviously we're going to start seeing those more effects, La Niña possibly effects, with a huge Arctic blast, with those positive Arctic oscillations kind of keeping that nice polar jet towards the northern United States and all of that, but we will talk about that furthermore in the video. So here's the latest look here at the latest SST values at the moment in the Pacific, and as you can see, the 3.4 region is very cold, and that's exactly why we are seeing a pretty significant drop overall. We're getting near negative 0.3, so the central and equatorial portion of the Atlantic is pretty cold when you consider how we're seeing possibly maybe 3 to 4 degrees below average, and then we're obviously going to be seeing as well the one thing that's really holding back these values and overall the reason why we're still sitting at negative 0.3 basically is because how warm the waters are off the northwest near the Niña 1+2 region. This is Niña 1+2, I believe, right here, and it is very warm, seeing anywhere from basically 3 to 4 degrees above average off the coast there portions of Colombia, as well off the coast of Ecuador, and as well even near Peru, we're seeing some pretty warm waters. So wanted to see whether these waters can start cooling off here as we get further into August. So if these continue to cool off, then we'll possibly get to the La Niña status possibly by late September, maybe even earlier, and then have an official La Niña possibly by October, which will be obviously we don't have to have an actual official La Niña to start seeing effects, because obviously you still have positive Arctic oscillations, you still have negative PNAs and all of that. So even with those, maybe a positive Arctic oscillation and negative PNA, we can still see La Niña type characteristics with those cold air kind of remaining in the northern United States, and that subtropical jet bringing in those really warm temperatures. But obviously, still you want to have an official La Niña to actually really just overall see an official La Nina. And obviously this will, if these waters continue to cool off, not only will it have an effect on the winter and possibly increasing the chance of La Nina, but it will also as well have a pretty big effect on the tropics. Let's now go ahead and get a look at the summary on the ENSO forecast. This did come out July 26th, so it is the latest update. So right now we do have a La Nina watch at the moment, as waters are continuing to cool off across the Atlantic. So here's a look at the SSTs are near to below average across most of the Pacific Ocean, which we obviously saw. And obviously we still have that large area near Nino 1.1+2 region where still some warm waters, but those can cool off. We're going to get a lot better probability of getting a La Nina. So winter neutral is favored through the northern hemisphere summer and into the fall. So obviously 51% chance for the August, September, and October season. So that's basically the early portions of fall, because obviously fall does not really start till September 21st this year. So again, once again, really fall doesn't start until really the last 2 weeks of September. So obviously August and September is still officially summer. So obviously we know neutral is going to continue throughout the northern hemisphere, and there's a 51% chance we continue to see an official neutral by August, September, and the October portion of fall. But with La Nina potentially emerging during the September, October, and November seasons, so possibly there's a chance that La Nina will develop into the late portion or even mid portion of the fall, maybe October or November. And then obviously they'll bring in those effects as early as possibly September, and lasting through the 2021 and 22 winter with a 66% during November, December, and January. So it looks like we may definitely see a La Nina for mid-late fall and as well carrying on to early winter. So let's actually now go all the way down here so you guys can get a better look at how the temperature and SSCs have gradually decreased. Obviously temperature-wise, so there's a look at July 21st. Very widespread cold SSTs. They're obviously still around 10 days ago, but we can just see how there were really warm waters and basically more kind of average waters last month. We're actually in late June, so that was definitely some pretty big progress we've seen so far. So let's now go all the way down here to the actual probability from the ENSO outlook for the seasonal outlook, I guess you could say that. So obviously we have around over 80% for neutral to continue into August. There's the June, July, and August. Obviously, you know, above an 80%, it should be really 100% because obviously we're already in August. But you can see by now, July, August, September, it actually decreases quite a bit to around 60. It's just above 60%. So it kind of decreases by a good 20%. And that La Nina actually increases up to around 33, possibly 32%. But as we now get into August, September, and October, they get pretty dead even, because obviously we did see that ENSO said there was a chance it developed in the September, October, and November time frame. And you can see that by September, October, November, we do have now La Nina actually having a better probability than a neutral for this time frame, up to around maybe a 55%. While neutral is basically at around just maybe a 42 or 43%. It looked now by August, November, December, La Nina continued to increase now up to above 60%, and by November, December, January, that's we have a 66% there for it to continue. And then it gradually decreases once we get deeper into the actual winter season. However, you still see above 50% as late as even March, and then it looks like neutral will possibly re-emerge by the early spring time frame. So we can get a better look at the actual model forecast, because there we are there at basically negative 0.3, and the majority want to have it kind of slightly increasing a little bit, and then once we get towards possibly the August, September, and October time frame, they really drop below negative 0.5. So here's the negative 0.5 status. As you see, they really drop a lot. However, we still have a little bit more than the majority kind of keeping it at a neutral, because here's El Nino. Let's do Nino. Let's do O for Nino, and then A for Niña. You can kind of see it's sitting right here at basically a neutral. The majority, however, there is still a pretty good probability. We have models kind of keeping it just under negative 0.5, and then here's again the negative 0.3 status. Looks like the 3.4 SST anomalies continue to have these really drop quite a bit. So it looks like waters are continuing to forecast to really decrease. It's really small, but you can kind of see Let's see here. This is looking at December, January, February 2021, 2022. Really cold SSCs across the equatorial Pacific. And then as we now get into the spring season, we'll start to see a little bit more of a warm-up, leading it back to possibly a neutral by March. So one thing I want to look at is at the actual seasonal forecast on NOAA. Obviously, they're very inaccurate. They're usually warm biased, obviously, because you can't really get a good look at, obviously, kind of climatology and overall meteorology months out, just even weeks out. It's just really impossible. I mean, weather is just so uncertain, even if it's 5 days out, 3 days out. But they're really, really warm biased. They rarely ever show blues or even whites. Typically, when you see whites, which basically means average, it basically means below average because they rarely ever show below average. The only time they show below average is the latest they go. The latest they will probably ever show below average is the 90-day forecast, which obviously we're not going to be really useful. So this is a 1.5 month outlook, which is basically looking at September, October, November. Really pretty warm bias across all the country, and then having some widespread below average precipitation, specifically across the Four Corners states, and as well even above average precipitation in the Mid-Atlantic. But that kind of completely changes by we get the 2.5 month, which is basically October, November, December. And then you see these whites kind of popping up, and that's actually looking like we may see some cold air kind of associating right here. We may see a pretty, not really a strong ridge, but we may see some type of kind of jet, that possibly polar jet, allowing for that cold air to remain here, and that really nice, cold, positive Arctic oscillation, allowing for that really warm air to stay south of that ridge, or possibly, yeah, basically south of that ridge, kind of really keeping that warm air really stationary right there until we actually have possibly that cold front advancing. And it looks like it actually may advance, obviously, 3.5 months, November, December, January, and there's a lot more widespread whites, and I wouldn't doubt soon with how large the whites are and how much it kind of dips that cold air, or that warm air, we may see it start seeing some maybe 33% below, 33% chance of having below average temperatures. And then you can overall see, it looks like we're going to be seeing a really good Pacific Northwest. It makes sense that we really have when it comes to La Niñas, and then a pretty warm and dry portion of the southern United States. So let's now actually get to the actual maps now. So this is going to be my temperature outlook. Obviously, this is my preliminary fall outlook. Obviously, the fall doesn't even start till really another 2 months or so, if we're being realistic. Or just under 2 months, basically. But it's definitely a lot more than a month. So basically, the fall doesn't even start for like another month and a half. So this is obviously not going to be accurate, or I wouldn't say it's not going to be accurate, but it's not going to be super duper reliable. Like, it's just, don't rely on it 100%. I'd say this is really my most, I'd obviously try my best to make it as accurate as possible, so I would take this really for a grain of salt. But let's now first start with the below average temperature. So obviously, I do think we will be seeing a pretty cold northwest and north central fall, just based on, we're looking at the La Nina, and overall possibly just really good area for possibly positive Arctic oscillation, kind of having these cold fronts and that cold air dipping into portions of the northern United States, but obviously not further advancing with that warm air to the south. So I do think we're going to be seeing slightly below average temperatures there, and that really lightest blue color from possibly the Pacific Northwest, dipping down to portions of the Central Plains, and then going all the way up to portions of the Great Lakes near Michigan. And that very light blue, I think we're going to be seeing basically slightly below average temperatures. It may be more kind of, it may feel like it's average, but since it's slightly below average, it doesn't mean you guys aren't going to be seeing significant cold fronts, because obviously fall, this is averaging out from September, October, November, December, 4 months. This is averaging out, not for a specific month or week or time frame. This is just averaging out. So averaging out those 4 months, I think those areas would be slightly below average. But obviously, there's still going to be warm fronts, and there's still going to be significant cold fronts. But overall, you guys really won't be seeing the worst of the cold fronts, nor will you guys be seeing the worst of the warm fronts. So you guys are basically slightly below average. And the same thing applies for the above average, which I'll go to very soon. In that second darker shade of blue, kind of the dark navy blue, we're going to be seeing a lot more cold fronts, and as well, those cold fronts will be a lot more significant, actually, kind of near the actual high pressure itself, seeing that really deep cold air, drier, possibly frequently. But yeah, definitely be looking out for some significant snowstorms as well in that general region, that darker blue. We do see that nice precipitation there in the Ohio Valley and possibly even the Pacific Northwest. And we have some nice cold there. We're looking at possibly a nice stormy region of snowstorms. So looking out for that dark blue, some nice cold weather. And then the purple, I think that's where we're seeing the overall coldest part of this is obviously based on average. So I think possibly average-wise, the coldest fall will be for portions of the Rockies, portions of the Sierras, and overall portions of the overall Northwest and North Central United States, including the Dakotas. So let's say the average high for Montana in November is 45, which seems pretty reasonable. Maybe 40 or maybe even 35, which doesn't sound like a big difference, but for 4 months averaged out, that is a pretty big difference. Let's not go and get to the actual above average. So I think we're going to be seeing obviously a warm eastern coast averaging out. Obviously, there's going to be some cold fronts and even snowstorms, so don't get all mad if you're in the northeast and think you're not going to get any snow this fall, because that's just not true. But in that really brightest yellow color, missing slightly above average. Same thing applies, like I said, for the blue color, the light blue. It's going to be probably kind of really closer to average. You guys really won't feel the big difference. You may see a degree or maybe two above average, but obviously since it's 4 months averaged out, you guys still have chances to get cold fronts. You guys still have chances to get more significant warm fronts. So basically, if you're in that lightest yellow, you're basically be seeing maybe just a teeny bit above average, but not going to be too crazy, not going to be deadly heat, not going to be extreme warm fronts. It's just going to be averaging out a little bit warmer, but there's still some chances. So if you're in Maine, there's still a chance for some good cold fronts, maybe specifically later in the season, near December and November. And that orange shade there, we're seeing as well some more significant and more frequent warm fronts there near the Gulf Coast and portions of the deep Southwest. And then that very dark red, that's where I think we'll be seeing the warmest fall based on your average, so maybe 5 to 7 degrees above average, with some more significant warm fronts that can possibly bring it over 20 degrees above average, specifically in the early portion near September and October. Let's now go and get a look here at the actual now precipitation map. So precipitation is very, very hard and difficult to forecast this far. I know temperatures as well pretty hard, but I think temperature is just a lot easier. It's a lot easier to actually get a better idea temperature wise. So this precipitation one will definitely be possibly a lot less accurate than the temperature one. So again, take this for a grain of salt as well. But I think we're going to be seeing some slightly above average precipitation across much of the northern United States, and specifically there across portions of the Rockies and Northwest, which is why I do think we can very well see pretty active Rockies fall snow. I think we could definitely see some snow as early as September across Montana and Idaho, and I wouldn't even doubt we see like a second storm like we saw last year. I forgot what name it was, but there was a significant letter B snowstorm last year, and obviously last year is kind of very similar statistic-wise, number-wise, in the 3.4 region in August, like we are seeing now. So I think there's definitely a chance we can get some significant October blizzards as well in the Rockies. So I would not doubt with all the cold air and all the moisture, there's definitely some good chances for some significant snowstorms. And obviously, if those snowstorms get pretty significant up here and then they get pushed to the west, we're missing as well some good snow across the Great Lakes and portions of the Midwest. And then obviously, possibly the opposite conditions there across the south. Going to be seeing slightly drier conditions across all the way from the Outer Banks of Virginia to portions near San Francisco. It's going to be, like I said with the temperatures, it's going to be mainly kind of closer to average. However, you actually might feel this a lot more than the temperatures. And then you're specifically going to feel if you're near a portion of the Gulf Coast and deep Southwest, you guys are definitely going to be seeing a lot drier conditions. But here they're looking at my overall fall forecast. So I know I actually don't have the actual description or letters like I usually do. I just didn't do it in this one because I have so many regions and so many different colors and all that. I thought it would be just a wreck and just take too long, because I really want to have this video out for you guys as fast as possible. But in the orange color across the southeast and portion of the Dixie Alley, I have in that area, I think it's going to be just a little bit warmer. Like I did say, it's going to be a little bit warmer. It's going to be possibly muggy at times, but it's going to be just slightly warmer especially warmer in the early off season. I think once we actually get towards portions of the late season, like I did say near December, November, we'll be seeing more frequent cold fronts, and I would not doubt we get some below average temperatures closer to the actual meteorological winter time frame, which I believe the meteorological winter does start like the first week of December. So would not rule out the possibility for some colder air in the late season, but overall teeny little bit above average. But doesn't mean you're not going to get snow in Maryland. Does not mean you're not going to get snow in Virginia. I'm trying to name areas that actually get snow in the fall. I'm not going to say obviously Louisiana, but and that very light blue to the north of that orange, I think I'm gonna be seeing that little bit shade, that light shade there, blue. We're gonna be seeing some cold air. Obviously, it's gonna kind of be more of a flip flop zone, but I don't want to have a huge area of just uncertainty since you guys obviously want answers. So I put you guys in a little bit cooler, because obviously I think there's a better chance those areas in the blues, like I'm saying, have a better chance of getting some more cold fronts than actual warm fronts itself, which is why I put you guys in a bit cooler. It's gonna be cool, not super cold, not frigid or anything like that. Let's now go ahead and look at the actual large pink region we're seeing here all the way from Maine to portions of Minnesota. So not pretty large, a light, hot pink color. I think they will be seeing a pretty snowy fall. So I know I have areas like New York City in there and Long Island and coastal New England. I know you guys are in there, but don't expect a massive nor'easter or a significant blizzard like we saw there with Gale, Windstorm Gale, which was obviously I think a week or so, or like 2 weeks maybe before Christmas, which basically is significant, which technically makes a Gale a fall snowstorm. Not really a winter, not like a really winter storm itself, but it's more of a fall storm. Or a fall winter storm. I hope that makes sense. But I think we may see. I'm not gonna say we're gonna be seeing something like light Gale, because obviously Gale is pretty historic for some reason. I think about like 4 feet near northern New Jersey. But I think we're gonna be seeing some snow across New England and portions of the Midwest, specifically with the pattern I'm looking at with that really nice moisture, possibly in the Great Lakes and widespread moisture as well in portions of the Northwest, and that very cold air coming from the Arctic region. We're going to be seeing some good snowstorms that possibly develop within the Rockies and do kind of cross-country types, a cross-country type track going through the Great Lakes and then eventually across portions of the Northeast, which is what I'm thinking. And that darker pink slash kind of almost purple color surrounding the Great Lakes, that's where I'm thinking we're going to be seeing some lake effect snow, specifically off Lake Erie. I think we're definitely going to be seeing some significant lake effect snow, which we actually saw pretty early on last year, if I remember. So if you're like Syracuse, Watertown, Cleveland, Erie, Marquette, Traverse City, Muskegon, I think you guys will get some good lake effect snow, specifically in the late fall season, near December, specifically. And let's go now in that small area of gray in the south central. That's where I'm going to have kind of my average area. I was really uncertain to where to put for you guys, because you guys are kind of right between the warmer and dry and the cooler and above average precipitation. So I think you guys will be like a second flip-flop zone 2.0, but mainly going to be really average. I hate to put people in averages, because imagine waiting a whole long 9 months just to be an average in my map. I promise as we get closer, I will have you outside the average. And that brown color in the southwest and south central is going to be drier and warmer, obviously. In that large area of white, we're going to be seeing some obviously widespread amounts of snow. I think we could definitely get some significant amounts of snow near October, near areas like Aurora, Colorado, outside Denver, as well as even some significant snow near Montana and Wyoming. I would not doubt we get blizzard warnings before November. In that very, very dark blue, I think we're going to be seeing obviously more significant and deeper Arctic blasts. And in that purple, that's when we're seeing that coldest air, which I already mentioned, that nice Arctic air. And the yellow color, that's where I have my flip-flop zones. So obviously as well, you guys are kind of at average 2.0. You guys are really between that nice Pacific jet there with a nice Arctic jet kind of to the northwest near not Nova Scotia, near British Columbia. But you guys are also near possibly that really warm and dry southwest. You guys are going to be very flip-flop. You may see some. Well, let me just split the flip-flop zone into two. I think if you're in the northern portion of flip-flop zone, you guys have a better chance of getting some decent cold air. And if you're in the southern portion, you have a better chance of getting warmer air. I think it's just going to be overall kind of flip-flop, which is exactly the name. And then in the last but not least, the northwest, we're going to be seeing some cool and chilly weather, or cool and wet weather. But hope you guys enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with another fall related video.